I am a psychic. Wait, before you click off the video, please hear me out. I don't mean that I'm out here solving cold cases with my psychic ability. Maybe I'm not even a psychic, but I don't have a better word for it. I have dreams.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Not just any dreams, guys. Weird dreams. I know it sounds crazy to some people, but this is actually a normal thing in my family. I've had tons of crazy spiritual dreams and experiences, which I want to discuss in future videos. Today, however, we're going to be talking about my strangest dream yet. And it still affects me to this very day. But let's talk about what we're crafting. Right now, I'm attempting to build a swamp village inside of that little cave that you saw me building in the last episode.
You watched the last episode, right?
So we're just going to be doing a lot of terraforming today, but stick around till the end and check out what it looks like because I think it looks really pretty. Anyways, let me get to the juicy story because I know what you guys are here for. You clicked on the video for it. Let me explain something before you run to the comments like, well, you must have watched something that made you dream. No. The majority of my normal dreams take place in some sort of apocalypse, or specifically a zombie apocalypse. Don't ask me why. I have a theory that it's because I haven't faced a lot of my demons in life and I'm constantly running from them, so it shows up in my dreams as me always having a zombie on my heels and never feeling safe for too long. I don't know. That's my typical dream. The books I read about before bed are usually about medieval royalty and superpowers, and I only watch cooking videos as I fall asleep, so trust me, I've debunked everything you can think of. I'm a bit of a writer, and I figured that retelling this dream in the form of a story will make it easier to describe what's happening. I'm terrible at telling stories, but I think I'm pretty good at writing them. I have a dream notebook where I wrote this down in great detail so I would never forget it. So everything I'm telling you now is exactly how it happened to me. Get comfy, get settled. This is gonna be a long one. It was dark all around me. A blank room with no walls and no flooring. I was surrounded by nothing except a small spotlight that loomed over my father and I. I was on a bike with training wheels and he stood over me smirking. He was the spitting image of my father, but immediately once I'd seen him, something felt off. There was an air around him. Something in the way he stood or smiled or carried himself was much like a stranger. He was the spitting image of my father, but I could not recognize him at all. He was teaching me to ride this bike, though I couldn't tell if I was riding at all. There was no sound, no scenery, nothing. And in the blink of an eye, I was older. I had abandoned my training wheels, but my father was still by my side. I didn't see this change coming. It was all a blur of memories, and in another instant, I was older again. And this time, I was on my first motorcycle. I closed my eyes, and once again, the scene was different. I was still in a dark, vast room of nothingness, but my father was no longer there. In front of me stood my mother and my sister. Confusion flooded my head. Everything was foggy. My sister stared back at me with resentment in her eyes. Her green curly hair fell around her shoulders. Time stopped for a moment. My brows furrowed in frustration and confusion. My sister, who was supposed to be older than me, somehow felt so childlike here. I got the feeling that I was the older sibling. I couldn't see myself, but I knew I was grown, old enough to drive, but young enough to still live in my mother's house. This was my mother's house, wasn't it? There was no furniture, no decor, nothing to indicate that it was, but I had a feeling. I don't remember the words my sister was saying, but we were arguing about our dad. She was jealous. He never wanted to spend time with her, but he was always out riding with me. Our mother cut in, standing beside my sister and yelling at me. It was all so foggy here. I turned to run away, but then everything seemed to be in slow motion. I kept running in slow motion until I reached my dad's neighborhood. I was standing at the end of his street watching him. He had 3 or 4 motorcycles in the driveway, and his garage was wide open. He was squatting down next to a bike. Snow was just beginning to fall. 2 police cars pulled up to his property. They got out and started to kick the bikes over. I screamed, and my dad noticed me. The cops handcuffed him, and he yelled for me to run. I looked down, and suddenly I was on my own motorcycle. I sped off as fast as I could, tears streaming down my face. I had no clue where I was going. I flew down snow-covered roads and came to a street with no streetlights. It was hard to see. The snow had turned to a blizzard now, but I couldn't stop. The road was windy, and before I knew it, I'd missed a turn and flew straight off the edge of the road. I landed on my back in the snow, facing the sky. I watched the snowflakes coming down from snow-covered treetops. I couldn't move at all, and all I could think was no one is going to find me here. And then I woke up. I swung my legs over the side of my bed. My chest was heavy, and tears threatened to fall. It sounds so funny when I tell this part, but this was my exact thought process. I am used to dreaming of people, and when a dream is this emotional, I know it wasn't my dream to have. My very first thought when I woke up sitting on that bed was, I don't even know anyone who rides a motorcycle except
That's one of my old people
Nora.
shooting at me.
I had woken up an hour early, but I knew I couldn't go back to sleep after that dream. I got ready for work, but still, I felt a heaviness in my chest. It was hard for me to breathe. I felt like crying on the drive to work, but I kept trying to just shake it off. 2 hours went by in a blur, feeling like I was drowning with a pit in my stomach. Nora was scheduled to come in soon. The phone rang. I watched my boss pick it up from across the room. Something in me already tensed up. I watched his eyes go wide and I held my breath. That was Nora's mom, he said, and the room began to spin. I bent down to lean on the counter in front of me, a receipt still in my hand. I almost threw up right then and there. She's been in an accident and she's in the hospital. It's been a year now, and even writing that last paragraph, I can feel it all over again. The heaviness in my chest, the cloudiness of my brain. I had trained Nora about 2 months prior to all of this. The words we exchanged were about the job. One day I'd asked her if she drove a motorcycle because there was a helmet in the break room. She said, yes. I said, cool. And that was the only thing I knew about her. I know I dreamt about her that night. I know for a fact that when I have dreams like this, my family always shows up as a way for my brain to really comprehend what's going on with familiar faces. I don't know anything about Nora, so I can't piece together what parts of the dream are real experiences or just metaphors. Her motorcycle. Why am I saying motorcycle funny? Her motorcycle was all white. I think the snow was there to remind me of that. I think the police were there maybe to save Nora. Maybe her dad was telling her to run because she needed to wake up? Nora was in the hospital for a few weeks. When she did come back, she had a huge road burn scar on her arm. I didn't have the nerve to ask her about her accident or tell her about my dream. My mother had seen it all on the news that morning. I don't have answers for this, and I wish I had told her about it. I was too afraid that she'd think I was crazy, or maybe it was traumatic for her and bringing it up would cause too much pain. But I will forever regret not asking her about it. I believe that maybe somehow our souls were on the same wavelength that night. Maybe all the montages I was shown were her memories. I quit that job a couple months later, and I have no contact with Nora. What was I supposed to do with this information? Am I supposed to be like some kind of ghost whisperer, or I don't know. Whenever I have dreams like this, I just write it down because it feels important, but what am I supposed to do with it? Am I supposed to learn something from it? Am I supposed to take action sooner? Should I have woken up at 5 in the morning and gone and found this girl with no contact, no information? I don't have the answers, but at least I have a good story to tell, I guess. So that was my strangest dream ever. Trust me, I have a full notebook of more dreams like this. That one was just the weirdest one. I do have scarier ones, but some of them are hard for me to retell. Let me know if you guys like this kind of story time ish video. Check out the video if you haven't been watching, because we're nearing the end and it's starting to look so pretty. How do I get rid of jellies in Minecraft?